I'd like to call to order the meeting, February 19, 2026 of the MPO Governing Board meeting. Staff, please call the roll so that we can establish a quorum.
At this time, I'm only asking those board members attending in person to respond with "here" when I call your name. Alternates, please state your name if you're representing an MPO board representative. As a reminder, please press your microphone button once to turn on and off. Steve Wilson. Yvette Drucker.
Here.
Fran Nacklis.
Here.
Amy Kelly. Tom Marker.
Here.
Susie Diaz is excused. Jim Koretsky.
Here.
Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Bev Smith. DeAndre Poole.
Present.
Greg Wise. Marcy Woodward.
Here.
Sarah Baxter is excused. Joel Flores is excused. Bruce Guyton. Jeff Hamara.
Here.
Michael Napoleon.
John McGovern for Michael Napoleon.
Christy Fox.
Here.
Joseph Paduzzi. Bobby Powell. Chelsea Reed.
Dana Middleton for Chelsea Reed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any members participating remotely?
No, Madam Chair.
So right now, it would lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Staff, are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
I'm seeking a motion to adopt the modified agenda.
Nacklis, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Woodward, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda passes. Anyone have, go here, any public comments? Any general comments been received?
No, Madam Chair.
We move on. At this time, I want to invite any board member comments on items not already on the agenda. For board members participating remotely, please utilize the raise your hand feature in the Zoom platform, and then remember to unmute your microphone once you are recognized. Any member comments? So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with some member comments. So I'm really excited. This is my first MPO meeting as a chair of the Palm Beach County MPO organization. All of you know that I'm a professed transit nerd, transit champion for this county, but also for all of our cities. I want to thank all of you that had the confidence to vote for me in December to take on this role. And I can't wait to work with each of you in all the cities as we further advance multimodal options, rail, funding, prioritizing, and planning and organizing for this county that we all call home. In addition to that, we have a lot of participants today that are not here because they are excused. So we have a lot of alternates. So I want to welcome all the alternates that are here. And we also want to welcome Dana Middleton, who's representing Palm Beach Gardens. Welcome, Dana, to our board. So I really am looking forward to working with you all on how we further advance multimodal options, rail safety. And what I task all the leaders and all of you listening out there and transit champions is that we continue to educate and advocate for what is public safety and how we can improve public safety. From my own city, I just wanted to do a couple of updates. So last week, Deputy Mayor Nacklis and I had the opportunity to welcome Link at Boca. It's the first transit-oriented development on the Tri-Rail rail in Palm Beach County. It was a huge event for us. It was also a huge day in the city and in the partnership with Tri-Rail. As many of you know, we also have our Tri-Rail chair here, Commissioner Woodward. We are all real Tri-Rail users, and we really advocate for Tri-Rail for for public commuter. I also had the opportunity to attend along with our executive director, the 250 America train on Brightline, and the future for Brightline is bright, no pun intended. I had opportunity to speak to the CEO, Patrick Goddard, and I got the opportunity to speak to Nikolai Petrovic, who is the new president of Brightline, and he comes with extensive background on commuter rail from Eurostar to Abu Dhabi. So a lot of good things coming with Brightline and what is rail to come. And lastly, in the city of Boca, we also held yesterday one of the initiatives that Deputy Mayor Nocklis had put out, which was our traffic garden. We had an incredible safety day yesterday for our children and families to learn how to ride the bike and safety on our roads. So a lot of good momentum going on, and I look forward to hearing some of the things that your cities are doing on public safety and on infrastructure. And with that, we will continue. I'm going to invite our Executive Director, Valerie Nielsen, to review the director's report.
Great. Thank you so much, and welcome Chair Drucker and to those members who are new here. I wanted to just congratulate the Village of Wellington and Boca Raton for earning a Bicycle Friendly America designation. Thank you for your efforts to improve bicycle safety. And just as a reminder for other municipalities and businesses, you may apply for these designations. The deadline for business is March 10th and for communities June 17th. So I encourage more of our local communities to achieve that designation. Also, thank you for our board members who have registered to attend the Safe Road Summit. That's a regional event that we host with other MPOs in our region, and it's being held next week in Broward. So we're looking forward to that. We'll hear more about this later, but Florida Bicycle Month is in March, and we're encouraging all of our local municipalities to celebrate and highlight bicycle safety and do local events. So please, we hope you do a proclamation, and you can find a template and more information on our website. We're going to be hosting a ride on March 13th, Friday, March 13th from 9 to 10, and you can register for that. We have the link here. We hope you'll join us for that. Also, I sent an email out to the board. Tomorrow City USA, it's a national expo about cities and what they're doing for solutions into the future. And that's going to be held at the Palm Beach County Convention Center from April 14th to 15th. I'll be speaking there on the 15th, but they did extend a free code for our complimentary code for our board members. So if you're able to stop by, even if it's for a day, please register. You can use the code at the checkout. I can send a reminder email after the meeting as well. And that's, you can use that through the end of the month to register. Also, thank you to everyone who's participated in our site visits, our mobile tours this year. They've really been great. We had a mobile tour learning about Palm Beach Gardens transit-oriented development. We walked around downtown West Palm Beach learning about their developments and their complete streets and mobility initiatives. We also went to the Palm Beach County Traffic Management Center, and we have one more that we're planning with Boca Raton. So save the date for April 22nd from 2 to 3:30. We'll be visiting Boca Raton to learn about their transit-oriented development efforts and walking around Meisner Park to see their mobility improvements and learn about how that development happened. We'll be sharing that link soon once it's available. We're also working on transit-oriented communities and policies and for that. So as a tool, resources for our communities, we're doing a workshop on April 30th here from 9:30 to 12. We encourage you to attend, to send your staff. We'll be having that here. Also, many of you attended our MPOAC Institute training last fall when we held a training here in October. There's going to be another one in Orlando on May 1st. I'll be sending an email if anyone's interested in attending that. Our chair will be there. So, and there'll be another one in the fall. If you haven't attended one before or you need a refresher, we encourage you to do so. Also, there's an autonomous vehicles conference coming up on May 23rd at the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, or the BRIC. That registration is complimentary to anyone who would like to attend that. The link is autonomousvehiclesconference.com. I'll also be speaking at that event, the 29th, May 29th. Yeah. And just a reminder that the state of Florida is updating their long-range transportation plan. So that's the vision for Florida as a whole. You can find more information online. And the county's also developing their countywide transportation master plan, as we all know, and we're involved. And you can stay tuned on that on their website. So thank you, everyone. And we encourage you to continue to stay involved and check out our website, palmbeachmpo.org, participate with our upcoming events and resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any board members have any comments on the director's report? Any questions? I see Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, our coffee hadn't kicked in when our comments came up yet. I did just want to update everyone on a couple of things with Tri-Rail. First off, next Friday is our last meeting with Director Deck. He's retiring. So if anybody would like to reach out and thank him for his service with us before he leaves us for Indiana. Been a great asset for Tri-Rail, for SFRTA, for the whole region. He will definitely be missed. The plan, I believe, right now is just to do an interim director as we'll begin a search for his replacement. And then also on the funding, my screen's doing something weird, sorry. On the funding, we did make it back into the budget. The Tri-Rail funding that was taken away last year. Of course, nothing's done until it's done, but everything that needs to happen, when it needs to happen, it has occurred. So the House has done their part, the Senate, FDOT, everyone is in agreement so far. I think all of the work that's been done, it's moving in the right direction. Again, nothing's done until that everything is signed and there's no red lines. But just to remind everyone, what happened last year was it started in the House. This wasn't like a governor's line item veto or Senate or anything. It started in the House. The House has made the correction. The Senate, everyone else is, as long as they fix what they did, everyone else is on board to continue the correction. So just a little update on that it's a whole different world than it was about 6 months ago. So good news for us.
Right over there.
And that's
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner McVoy.
Thank you. I just want to do two small things with the executive director's report. Really thank I still say TPA, but I'm trying to work on MPO. Really appreciate the focus on alternate modes of transportation, especially bicycles, electric bicycles. It's clearly coming area and increasing. There clearly are issues with safety. One that I wanted to draw to our attention as a board is timing of streetlights. They very often are not timed, particularly if people are on even an electric tricycle. They just don't have the acceleration that a regular bicycle has. And oftentimes you're sitting in the middle of the intersection and it's already changed. We already have the problem that many car drivers ignore the white lights for pedestrians, but even if you have one and the car drivers are respecting it, if it turns on you while you're in the middle of the intersection, that's obviously not great. So I would like us to keep an eye on timing of lights and make sure that they work for pedestrians and for all, as much as, obviously you can't accommodate everything, but let's move the curve a little. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McVoy. I'll go to the other side. Commissioner Koretsky, I'm sorry, Mayor Koretsky. I can't see your card.
Just a follow-up question for Vice Mayor Woodward. I don't know, you may have said this, but I didn't hear it. Did the House do retroactive compensation for what they didn't fund last year?
No, as far as I understand, that's not an option. We had reserves. There was a little bit of a CARES and CRISA. There was a few different funds that we still had some federal dollars from, and we're encouraged to use those, and that's what we did. And so it looks like moving forward, it's just moving forward.
And,
No
and since you
retroactive.
didn't mention, I suspected that, but that still is a significant hit, right?
It was,
Yep.
I believe over 40 million.
Thank you.
Out of our reserves.
Any other questions for our executive director?
I'll just mention, Commissioner Boyd, thank you for your comments. If the county, Palm Beach County controls all the signals, so if there's any specific locations, we're happy to, Boca Raton controls their signals, Palm Beach, the town of Palm Beach controls their signals, but everything else, the Palm Beach County traffic engineering controls that. So if there are any locations of specific issues, we feel free to let us know or reach out to them and we can relay that information, look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we were speaking about Tri-Rail, definitely want to thank Dave Deck, and I want to wish him well in his next endeavor, along with his lovely wife, Kathy. And yes, they will be sorely both missed. They've done a lot for Tri-Rail and for commuter rail, and we will forever be grateful, and good luck. So we move on. Would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve, Necklace.
McGovern
Knockless,
second.
Knockless first, McGovern second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All and oppose. Consent agenda items pass. And let the record reflect that Amy Kelly is here. Tom Marquette, I think you were walking in. Bruce Guyton has joined us, Joe Paducci, and Bobby Powell. Now we're going to our action items. Motion to adopt 2026 safety targets. Can I have the screen share? Perfect. And I'll invite Brian Boucher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, to present this item. Brian?
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Morning, Board. Hope you all are having a wonderful winter time. Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, here to present the 2026 safety targets for our county. The goal today, obviously, is to establish these targets through our resolution. These will be consistent in alignment with the state. Although I understand that sometimes safety is a particular issue, so we're going to probably have a lot of discussions around different topics. We do have specific safety targets that we're going to address, and we will do our best to also address your concerns about what we have been working on, what we are tracking, and what we are seeing with respect to safety. Throughout the presentation, I'll be happy to take questions for you as well. So, looking at safety targets, the U.S. Department of Transportation mandates that each agency from the state all the way down to MPOs have specific safety targets. The US DOT's safety target itself is 0. It has been that way since long-term safety target has been that way since the late 2010s. FDOT and the MPO both have had a target of 0 serious injuries and 0 serious fatalities since 2018. This started with both the MPO and the Florida Strategic Highway Safety Plan getting adopted in 2018. Right now, the Florida Strategic Highway Safety Plan is undergoing an update with the Florida Transportation Plan. So if you saw that slide in the opening presentation, all of the statewide plans are being adopted at this moment. We also at the MPO recently adopted an update to our Vision Zero Action Plan in 2025. So our safety targets all the way from the federal level down to the local level are aligned for 0 serious injuries and 0 fatalities. The specific federal performance measures that we are asking you to adopt today are laid out on the screen. They are fatalities and serious injuries in both the raw number and the rate per vehicle miles traveled, and the combined non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Now, we also have some extra data for you to look at here to better understand where we're going. Although we're going to look at population in addition to these metrics, we are not asking you to adopt population as a specific performance measure today. This is just a little bit of extra information, a little bit of extra knowledge that we're trying to share with you all about the direction that we're heading as a state and the direction that we are heading in as a county. Sorry, dropped someone else's microphone. Make sure to put that back. So let's start with serious injuries and fatalities, the raw number and the vehicle miles traveled. So I'm going to throw a lot of data at you today, and I do apologize for how many charts and graphs that you are going to see, but I'm going to walk you through it. So on the left side of the screen, you see the number and the fatality rate for Palm Beach County and the serious injury and the vehicle mile travel rate as well. For Palm Beach County, we really peaked in serious injuries in 2018. That VMT rate, crash rate was 8.4. And then you can see a decline to 2024 where we are now down to a VMT crash rate of 4.5. What that means is we're trying to normalize the number of crashes that are happening compared to the number of miles that are being driven on our roadways. So for serious injuries, we are seeing a decline in both the rate and the raw number since our peak in 2018. And that's a really important point to make. For fatalities, we have remained relatively flat. We still say that we need work on both of these metrics. It goes up and down year over year when compared to vehicle miles traveled. Looking at the state had a more aggressive peak that happened with the COVID years, where more vehicle miles traveled were happening on the road, more people were coming to Florida. So there was a little bit more of an aggressive peak in both the rate and the number for the state of Florida. The state generally, though, is seeing a little bit more of a decline in the fatality rate than what we see locally. So we know serious injuries are going down by number and by the rate when you compare them to vehicle miles traveled. So what does it look like when we compare it to population? So it's an even better metric. So this is promising for us for both the state of Florida and Palm Beach County. You saw about a little less than half of a decline in the rate for serious injuries for Palm Beach County. If you look at this compared to population and crash rates, it's more than halved. So we are doing better on serious injuries than we have been if you were looking at those two different metrics. The state of Florida has also done a really great job of accelerating their serious injury crash reductions, as well as their fatalities. It shows up a little bit better on the reduction of the fatalities as well. So when you look at it and you skin it multiple ways, serious injuries and fatalities are declining.
One quick question.
Thank you,
There's a
Madam.
question from Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, real quick, can you help me out here? I'm looking at, it looks on the side, 0, 200, 400, and on this side for Florida,
Thank
looking
you.
at 0, 5,000.
Yes.
What is that?
So this is
10,000? I just need to know what we're
Yes.
comparing.
So the
to.
numbers on, thank you. That's a great question. I apologize for not walking through that. The number on the left side of the chart for Palm Beach County is the raw number. The number on the right side is the crash rate number. So per 40, let's just say you're taking the number on the right and you're multiplying it by 100,000. That's how you get the population when you divide it by the crashes, and that gives you the rate. And it's the same for each chart that you're going to see today. That's a great question. Thank you, Commissioner Powell.
All right, we usually leave the discussion and questions at the end, but we do have another card up with you.
Yeah, we usually hold our questions, but if there's something specific to the slide, because there's a lot of data, I'll go ahead and allow that. Mayor Koretsky.
I just, on the previous slide, I put my card up, but can you go back to the previous slide?
Vehicle miles traveled.
Yeah, so first of all, it looks like the data for 15 through 19 is the same for the state and the county.
Yes, we did double check that. It does. That is accurate.
Right, but the note in the package we got said the state serious injury rate has declined more rapidly than the county. I'm not sure I see that because, well, it looks like we're trending for 25 to be half the rate of 2018, 2019, which is phenomenal. I'm talking about on serious injuries.
Mhm. Yes, I can double check the backup, but it looks like from looking at this chart, the rate in 2018 for vehicle miles traveled was 8.4 in Palm Beach County. It was 8.4 for the state as well. We declined faster to 2024 when comparing to vehicle miles traveled in 2024, where it went down to 4.5 for us in Palm Beach County. And then for the state, it only declined to 5.7 on a serious injury crash rate.
I mean, and I only brought that up because, again, the backup said the state had declined more rapidly. It looks to be opposite. And then this is, I don't know how it happened. I mean, I know there's been a lot of work. That's a phenomenal decline.
It is a good indicator. And we're going to get to a little bit more about the things that we've been working on to get through it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to have you proceed, and we're going to hold questions to the end because you might be able to answer some of these questions while we hold questions to the end. So
Thank you.
go ahead.
So we looked at serious injuries. We know that there is a decline in the rate for both population and for both vehicle miles traveled. We're generally trending in the same direction for both with the state. There's a little bit of, ebb and flow depending on how you look at it and you look at the data. The population may grow faster for Palm Beach County on a percentage wise than the state, and same for vehicle miles traveled. So I have that data as well if you're really interested and really curious and want to dive in with me. But we'll flip to our next slide, which is the serious injuries from crashes by mode. So what you see here is in blue, the motorist crashes. So this includes things like mopeds, drivers, trucks, etc. You have pedestrians in light blue, and then bicyclists in red. Serious injuries have generally, for us, it was a more aggressive peak in the 2018, as I'd mentioned before, for serious injuries, but there is a decline that has occurred for serious injuries. That's just a raw number. We don't normalize these crashes by any way. But it is important to look at the share. There is a slightly larger share of bicyclist crashes and pedestrian crashes. For us in the state, you have to take into account that we are looking at very different scales here when you're looking at the Palm Beach County graphic versus the Florida graphic. So please do be aware of that. And I should also mention that we are still working with preliminary 2024 data because those crash reports have not maybe been fully reconciled. There could be open cases which prevent them from, touching anything currently. So just be aware that the 2024 data shouldn't change too much, but we do expect the numbers maybe could go up and down a little bit for that year when you look at it again in February of 2020 next year. For fatalities, again, we're looking at different scales, so it might feel a little bit more jarring to look at Palm Beach County, but again, we're on a very different scale than we are with Florida. I think the promising thing and the takeaways here for us when we think about it in the long term is that we are seeing a rapid decline in the serious injuries. We haven't seen as much of a decline in the fatalities. We're still looking for the 2024 data to be kind of closed out. We are starting to see that it did go down from that 2021 and 2022 number in Palm Beach County where it was at its peak during the COVID kind of influx of people. And then the 2025 data is still very preliminary, so I wouldn't want to comment and mislead you to think that we have a better picture on that quite yet. For Florida, they had a very aggressive peak in 2021 in this state for fatality crashes. They have generally started a more gradual or more linear decline in their crashes. So it is worthwhile mentioning that, we are trying really hard to get these crashes down. There are different characteristics that obviously are spread across the entire state of Florida, but as a whole, as a state, we're trying to implement policies with our partners in roadway projects, which really implement on their system to help at least with the state highway system and moving that forward. So you can see those updates going into design manuals. We work with them on that. And we're really proud of the partnership we have with DEF-DOT. So takeaways are, our serious injuries are declining when you look at them from the terms of the rate, the number, depending on how you skin it, it's going down in some ways it's more aggressive, in some ways it's not. Fatalities have remained somewhat flat for Palm Beach County, I'd say. I think that we're hopeful for a more gradual decline starting with the 2024 data as that gets closed out. But looking onward, and what we're asking you all to do today is to adopt our performance measures, but we ask you to adopt them with some specific information in mind about what we are working on. So first and foremost, we are always tracking whatever data sources that we can get access to, starting with the FDOT Target Zero initiative. This is where FDOT produces information and data around roadways, road users, and user behavior. And they produce an annual list on ranking, which is available on the QR code here, that will show you how you rank in comparison to your county. If they have a different geographic breakdown for cities, if you're interested in looking at any of these emphasis areas on the screen. So starting at the top, lane departures and intersections. Those have to deal with road geography. The nice thing about what this program has through Target Zero is that it comes with a funding program. If you can show that you have lane departure crashes or intersection related crashes, you can go through the local road safety program and apply for dollars to the state of Florida. We've already shared this information with your technical advisory committee members, your Vision Zero advisory committee members, so all of your staff have this information already. Additionally, the state has high visibility enforcement grants. So this is available to your local police departments. If there are emphasis areas, for example, we see a lot of course, distracted driving, a lot of speeding and aggressive driving, and then no surprise, aging road users and teen drivers seem to be pretty prominent throughout Palm Beach County and its municipalities. You can use high visibility enforcement grants from FDOT to give your law enforcement tools and resources to go out and either enforce or educate on safe road behavior for these different user groups and behaviors. We are also working really hard to track legislation. The MPO does not lobby, but we do try to pay attention to what's important to our communities. And we know that e-bicycles and e-scooters have been a serious area of contention. You saw on the last screen that micromobility is an evolving emphasis area. I think it's now probably going to be an emphasis area for the state. We are looking at House Bill 243 that has gone through the House at this moment. The main takeaways from that bill is that it would create an e-bike safety task force, which may consist of members of the Ped Bike Statewide Safety Coalition, of which the MPO is a part of. Crash report changes, which would be due in October 2026, to update the reporting form requirements to have more form-related fields for e-bicycles, which will make it easier to track these types of crashes. And then, of course, e-bike related penalties for some of that nuisance behavior that we see on sidewalks, recreational paths, and otherwise. So this is still in the legislature. It's working its way through the process, but if it passes, we'll include it as a future item on one of our workshops that we have annually on micromobility, e-bike safety, or bicycle safety overall. With respect to some of the specific agency actions and initiatives, we're proud that in 2025, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program awarded 3 additional grants locally to the Village of Palm Springs, City of Boca Raton, and Town of Lantana. So congratulations to those municipalities. We're now up to 13.3 million in Safe Streets and Roads for All grants alone from FHWA for 13 different applicants. So we're proud of our applicants who have come in, proud of our repeat recipients, showing that they're doing documented safety work that FHWA welcomes, and they're moving the needle on. We have 7 municipalities that have independently adopted a complete streets policy, and multiple of those municipalities have been ranked in the top 10 for the best complete streets policy in the country when compared to hundreds of peers. So if you're interested in learning more about getting this complete streets policy adopted locally, it also comes with the MPO resources for design guidance. That design guidance helps with e-bicycle related crashes. We have 14 municipalities who have committed to Vision Zero. Many of them are working with their local constituents on developing a Vision Zero action plan to get to zero. Through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, that's a large majority of the funding for where those plans are coming from. We just closed our funding program this past Friday, where we're going to be working on prioritizing $28.9 million across our agencies. We received 6 transportation alternatives applications. We received 3 major project applications. So, and there might be 1 or 2 that are still in the pipeline that had some issues with submittals. So do stay tuned for more information on those, but that will ultimately result in about 10 projects that we're going to try to implement across the county that will be MPO funded for our local agencies. And then lastly, of course, we have our crash dashboard, which now has 2024 crash data. If you're interested in your city, you want to see the hotspots, you can go to mpo.org/crash dashboard, and it will bring you to filter. You can filter by your city, you can filter by county commissioner district, you can filter by crash type. If you want to see where the rear end crashes, the lane departure crashes are, that dashboard is very helpful. And then also looking at a speed management study where we identified some of the corridors which have a high propensity for speeding that also have a high propensity for crashes. So if you're interested in any of those, please reach out. I'll be happy to share those. Just some of the more notable accomplishments recently: Lowson Boulevard, North Shore Drive in West Palm Beach and Delray Beach, Westgate Avenue just completed their Main Street project. And of course, the Clear Lake Trail. We're very excited that many of these projects are going to have project connections that have been applied for this year. Clear Lake Trail just came in for an extension to bring the next phase in, as well as Westgate Avenue. Both of those were connecting projects, which is really great to see, because we hear all the time about, well, these road projects are just independent, but if we can start connecting them to different facilities, then we'll start to see a real momentum and potential mode shift change, because we're trying to give people complete access to complete networks of streets. So with that, I'll wrap up, and I'd like to seek a motion to adopt the proposed safety targets.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. So I'm going to start with Commissioner McVoy.
Just looking at some of your graphs, a pattern I saw on a number of them was an increase for the first maybe 4 years or so of this time period, and then a fairly steady decrease. And, as a science guy, you look for patterns and you say, well, something must have happened to change the slope of that thing and turn it around. And that sort of interests me. It's great to have a target of 0, and I'm all for it, but does it come with any specific things that might contribute? And now we want to look at, increasing the slope of that to even faster downward. Do you have any insights on that kink that was, I want to say, well, it was about 4 years in, so.
4 years in. So I'll start with just how we normalize things, because I'm sure that that's probably of interest to a few of you. Again, on the left is Palm Beach County's population and VMT growth, as well as Florida's population and VMT growth on the right. Palm Beach County has had a really steady increase in population, so that might have something to do with kind of those more gradual decreases. Although when you look at just the raw number as well, those have declined. So that is promising that we're not just looking at it at a rate and seeing that, oh, the population is going up, the crash rate's
Right.
going down. So the raw numbers are something to look at too, in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that's really notable here is that you could tell something happened to both the population, the vehicle miles traveled growth for Florida and for Palm Beach County, and that was COVID. The vehicle miles traveled did dip quite substantially. And then I think what also is important to note is that when you compare the two, the population growth in Florida is still kind of climbing, hasn't quite reached the rate of vehicle miles traveled, the growth of vehicle miles traveled when compared to the state. The state has had a much more linear, straightforward population growth, but the population growth is starting to look like it's exceeding the vehicle miles traveled growth. So just to make note of those things. So to answer your question, I think the rate is declining because the number is going down, which is good, but also because the population is increasing, so that the rate, depending on how you look at it, the population or the vehicle miles traveled is also declining as well.
I'll just jump in too with, as we noted, there was the trends were going up. And then in 2018, the state said, we need to do something about this. And they started providing more grant programs, the federal government also. And it's encouraging to see that obviously there's no magic wand, but it's encouraging to see that the hundreds of millions of dollars that we, as this board, have been prioritizing for local safety projects, that these other grants that the state are offering for law enforcement, for education, the discretionary grants, that we're starting to see some of these things, looks like they're starting to make a difference. So it's going to take time, but it's encouraging to see that the tactics that they're working on are helping.
The other comment I was going to have was on the bill tracking with the electric bikes. I just hope that folks that are involved with that, in fact, use them rather than just regulate them. I'm all in favor of various sorts of regulations as long as they're reasonable, but I hope that there are people who have real lived experience to inform some of that decision making.
Certainly. And we are actively sharing updates to what's called the Florida Green Book. So if you want to get really, technical into the weeds with me for just a moment, we use 2 design manuals in the state of Florida. 1, Florida Design Manual for state highway system and the interstates, and 2, the Green Book. The Green Book is undergoing an update right now. So we are participating as agency staff in those Green Book updates for the bicycle manual, the pedestrian manual, and the shared use path manual, as well as the other ones too, geometric design, transit, et cetera. But we're also sharing that with your members. So I'd encourage you all, if your TAC representatives, are not actively engaged with us, bring them back to the table and say, we really need you to pay attention to what the MPO is saying and what the MPO is doing. We did get some really good input from local agencies, notably Wellington and Green Acres were both on the pedestrian Green Book updates. So we're really proud of that. We are trying really hard to ensure that we are putting the right influence where we can. And the technical manuals is the right place for us, while also staying abreast of what's happening at the legislature too.
Mayor Koretsky.
So how are motorized e-bikes categorized? And I suspect e-motors are motorized and motorized e-bikes are not. Is that correct?
Expected this question. Thank you, sir. It made me happy to do some work this morning. E-bikes are currently classified, if the police officers are able to make a judgment, as bicycles in the crash reporting, but they are able to flag them as e-bicycles in notes. Generally speaking, that's why I think the legislature is also trying to mandate updates to the crash reporting form. The crash report form takes on average 7 years to update. So the legislature intervening in that, I think, is a strong signal that we need to work faster on that issue specifically. But currently they're classified as bicycle crashes in this data set.
Okay, but I would assume that if a police officer recognized one was an e-moto, which is a motorcycle. It might have been, because motorcycles are categorized as motor.
If it exceeds 750 watts and the
Right.
police is able to make a judgment that it is underneath that wattage or is capable of going no faster than 28 miles per hour, they will classify it as an e-bicycle. There's other things too, like it can't have fake pedals attached to the body of it. You know, pedal should have a spindle motion that it can do. A lot of what's being marketed right now as an e-bicycle is actually an e-motorcycle, to your point. So that's why I think the legislation specifically is calling out some of those notes to get updated, because police are having a hard time in the field because, you know, a lot of times these things don't have a label for what class of bicycle it is, and they might exceed some of those thresholds that I just mentioned.
Thank you. And then just kind of a comment, but you know, problem we're having, I'm sure all of us are experiencing e-bikes is it's really the age, because kids that have never learned or had to learn rules of the road are just driving, you know, and I hope those same kids, when they finally get a regular vehicle, they don't carry those habits forward. You know, I would suspect that's the one area we're going to see when the data is flowing in, much increases in injuries, serious injuries in bicycles for the e-bikes. But thank you.
We're actively working. We hosted a micromobility safety event in September with our partners, Safe Kids, the sheriff's office, the healthcare district, who has all of the trauma data for hospitals. So while we're looking at crashes, it's not the only thing that we can look at. We're trying to get access to, and we're working through the privacy concern issues of how we get access to the trauma data as well, because that is a different data set that might reveal some things that we hadn't, you know, seen in the past efforts. So we're just explicitly looking at what a police officer had in terms of their report. We're probably missing some crashes and some incidents, because a lot of times what happens if you're in an e-bike or e-scooter, or, you know, you're walking, if you have an incident and a crash with a car, that person might offer, hey, I can just take you to the hospital now and we don't have to involve the police. And they'll be like, yeah, take me. And that does happen. So we're trying to get more data sources. Again, working through some of those privacy issues with the healthcare district takes time, but we are working on getting that, as well as tracking other research out of, for example, University of South Florida, which has really good research that they just published on crashes up to 2024. We can share that with you as a follow-up.
And my comments were not intended. I appreciate everything MPO staff has
course.
done. This is a statewide issue. Technology created e-bikes, and legislation didn't react to it quick enough, and still hasn't. But thank you.
Of course, thank you.
So moving right along, Commissioner Weiss, and please let the record show Commissioner Weiss has been here.
Thank you. First off, my apologies for arriving a little late, but talking about the e-bikes, and this is something that we had been looking at for a while. I want to acknowledge my intern, Kayla Barlow, who is here. She put together a report, literally went through hundreds of crash reports, because there is no way to note on the crash report if there was an e-bike or any micro mobility device in a crash. So she had to look at them, and we decided to look at those that ended in death, but there were hundreds of them to go through and have to read the body of the report. So a few weeks ago, we had requested that they try and insert language in 243 to include noting micromobility and e-bikes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of forms that have to be updated, and there was pushback, and that's not going to happen. But I think it's important that we continue to push for this. In 2025, there were 6 crashes that we were able to find that resulted in deaths on e-bikes. The interesting thing of those, only 1 was a juvenile. The other 5 were adults. And we had thought we just assumed there were going to be more children involved, but that wasn't the case. What we don't know is we don't know about these micromobility devices and pedestrians, or micromobility devices and bicycles. There's no record. There's no way to, when the police get called, if they were to get called out, there is no way for them to report that as it stands today. So we are really, in an essence, we're flying blind. So any regulations are going to be purely based on speculation as opposed to hard data to really understand, how we might better regulate these devices. But clearly, it's something that I think, and I believe we are all focused on safety. This is something that we're going to need to, I think, push to make sure that we have the data so that we can enact legislation that will likely help reduce or make better use of these devices. So I think that I sent the report over to Valerie yesterday, so she can share that with you. But it's something that definitely, technology is going to continue to change. This is just the beginning. I mean, as we need to understand the autonomous vehicles. There was an article yesterday that I read. There is now a company that is transporting across state lines on, they're going to be going between, I think, Houston and Phoenix. So it's a 1,000-mile run. They're doing it autonomously. There's no driver in these trucks. So far, they've done 250,000 miles. There's not been one accident caused by the autonomous truck. There have been accidents, but they've been caused by human drivers with these trucks. So it's an important thing, and we have no legislation at the federal level. This is something as a member of National Association of Counties, I have pushed for to get them to start to work on this, but it's coming, and we have very little in the regulatory environment for any of these new changes that are coming our way, and they're going to have an impact on our lives. But thank you for your report. I thought it was excellent.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. And if possible, I'd like to also share that report that you worked on with the rest of the board after as part of the follow-up to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Pell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, I just want to confirm on the slide that you had with the number of on the red that would indicate there were more bicycle fatalities than motorist fatalities, because I see the motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists, and it would look like to me that even though there would more than likely be less, in my opinion, I would probably be less people on bicycles, but there's more fatalities. Is that correct on all of these, including in the state of Florida and Palm Beach County?
So to read through the chart, looking at it from motorists, that makes up the largest share of our fatalities. What I think is important to note and why the state asked us to track performance measures for combined pedestrian and bicyclist is because they want to understand the share of the fatalities that are happening and the serious injuries that are happening. So if you look at, for example, in 2025, that the fatalities for bicyclists that we have so far make up about 12% of the fatalities in Palm Beach County. So when you compare that to the number that we typically see, the journey to work data from the census that says, less than 1% of people are biking to work, but the fatalities make up about 12%. That's what we're trying to point out when we say the share of people that are moving in our county, how they're moving in our county, and the makeup of the fatalities that are happening. So I did apologize if I misled you, but no, the motorist fatalities are still the highest.
Just help me out. I'm confused a little bit. I'm looking at 2025 and I see under motorist, the bar goes up to maybe, it looks like 90, or is that 1,500?
So this is the total right here. So the bicyclists only make up a share of I think I said earlier, about 12% of the fatalities.
Oh, so I'm sorry, this is a combination of all
the combination
three.
of everything that has happened. Yeah, so
And
we're trying to show you with the
chart is
light
very
blue and the
difficult
dark
to
blue
read.
there that, about 1/3 of our crashes were made up of pedestrians and bicyclists the number of fatalities resulted in bicyclists was about 1/3 compared to 2/3 for motorists.
So I'm getting it now. It's the number of bicyclists is not actually the number of bicyclists shown up top. It's just the percentage of all of them in
Right,
total. So
correct.
we really you don't show the percentage of bicyclists. It's just that part on top of all the people who died.
That is correct.
Was this the best chart to represent what we're trying to convey here?
I will take that comment and I'm going to run with it. And I apologize that if it wasn't clear for next year, we'll make sure to clarify that for you and make it a little bit better.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. So we'll go to Mayor Hamara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So all of the data are interesting. What does it tell us? Does it give us any indication that, other than the fact that there's a downward trend, what's working, where we ought to put more emphasis or anything like that?
Sure. So I would say two things. Takeaways are serious injuries are going down. Fatalities, if I had to look at the data and give you a ballpark estimate, I would say it's probably flat until we get more data from 2025. What's working is complete streets. You know, we're not saying that you have to build a bike lane everywhere, but if you have high speed, high arterial roads,
Right.
you likely need some form of separation. If you look at the people that are biking here on the screen, they're right next to Okeechobee Boulevard. And they probably feel much safer, and there's safety in numbers for people who are biking than biking on Okeechobee Boulevard itself, which is one of our high injury network corridors. So if you can separate users through space and physical separation and time, I think we heard earlier about traffic signals being an issue, something we looked at the Glades Road DDI before that even became live, so to speak, and we identified that as a signal timing issue to be important to fix that. Hey, a bicyclist can't traverse this intersection and timing you've given them. That's important. So I'd say we need to work on our complete streets initiatives, separate users as much as we can from one another, especially if we're talking about high speeds and high volume roadways. So those are the things that work.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Brian. My question kind of goes back to e-bikes and reporting and the data capturing. And based on what you had said, it looks like, you know, based on individual police departments and protocols and how they report crashes and fill it out, is there something that if the report doesn't change, if in the legislature, if they don't change the crash reports, is there a way or a mechanism for the MPO to create kind of a, I don't want to say, because you don't want to micromanage police departments, but a universal guideline of how to report them when it's a bike, but then also an e-bike, so that we can get and capture more of that true data? Because a lot of times every police department has a way of how they, you know, report a traffic crash or whatever. But if we as an MPO can create more of a guideline for the purpose of really capturing data and knowing what kind of issues we're experiencing as a city when it comes to e-bikes and crash data, what can we do as an MPO, either at our local level or creating some sort of a guideline so that these police departments have that way of saying, you know, hey, we want to capture this data. It's really important that we capture it. Can we provide you some sort of guideline so that every police department is working kind of from the same when it comes to this, so that, you know, for true, you know, so that we have that data that we can utilize?
So we have a very good relationship with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, who has, you know, police and traffic control for many jurisdictions for enforcement purposes. We have been working directly with them on trying to understand their policies and procedures better before we step into the realm of trying to make those suggestions. There is crash reporting guidance at the federal level, at the state level, and then there's local policies and procedures within police departments. I've learned that police departments don't like to be told what to do. So we're trying to nurture a relationship with the sheriff's office to better understand not just e-bikes, but also golf cart crashes, autonomous vehicle crashes, how they're responding to those kind of emerging trends that we've seen. So we have, through the multimodal team, we sit on the Safety Coalition for Palm Beach County, which includes county engineers, many municipal planners and engineers, as well as different safety partners to work with the county on how that reporting can get better filtered out. We are, as I said before, also on the statewide Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Coalition. We make suggestions to those crash forums. It is the long form process, but the MPO is already involved in making those edits happening. And we are engaged locally to try to ensure that there's a clear procedure that police departments are following, and the sheriff's department follows for these types of crashes. Again, the crash reporting, is still a problem, but as much as we can try to flag things so it's easier to see what types of vehicles are on the crash reporting form that exists now would be helpful. So we'll take that and we'll report that back to the corporal that we work with in the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I mean, I think even, I know we just had a presentation in Boynton Beach and we were talking about e-bikes because we're talking about a local ordinance and adopting something similar to what some of the other cities have done. And it is kind of a gray area as to how they get handled when it comes to reporting crashes and that sort of thing. So, I think even me personally, just having a more proactive approach to our police department saying, hey, the MPO is here to help. I think we can all encourage our local, whoever has local police departments.
Commissioner Kelly, can you speak into your mic?
Oh, sorry.
We can't hear you on this side of the room.
Sorry. To, to encourage us as board members to be more, to be interactive with our police department saying, hey, the MPO is here. They're here to help when it comes to e-bikes and they're working with the sheriff's office on reporting and that sort of thing too. We had a presentation, I was mentioning, we're looking at doing an ordinance on e-bikes at our city level, similar to what other municipalities have done. And so I think that, our police department is looking at also what other cities are doing. And so I think this is a prime opportunity for us as an MPO, even as our members, not necessarily even on the staff level, but on our level, reaching out individually to our police departments and our departments that work in our, villages and cities to really encourage them to look at a more universal approach when it comes to e-bikes for reporting sake and to work with the MPO and encouraging that relationship to further, just make it, more universal to collect the data. So.
Madam Chair, if I may also, and as part of that September workshop, we actually screened the entire county for micromobility ordinances, golf cart ordinances, and otherwise. We did it with District 4, so there's a little bit even beyond the MPO's reach. We'll share that as well, the takeaways from that. Most agencies are still kind of flying blind, frankly. And to Commissioner Weiss's point, the state legislation just hasn't caught up in time to really help the locals with this issue.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I just had a couple of, I made several notes, but on the e-bike, I had a constituent reach out in the Boca Del Mar community. There's an elementary school, I believe, nearby, and very concerned pedestrian because the high-speed scooters flying past her on the sidewalk, and it's silent, comes up on her very quickly, and wanted, of course, I need to get the sheriff out there immediately to take care of this was part of the conversation. And, we do currently have an ordinance that requires e-bikes and scooters to be under pedal or push power if they're using the sidewalk. I don't think that's enforced anywhere. And that's the current ordinance in the county. And then also is supposed to be using a bell or some sort of signal when you're coming up behind a pedestrian. Again, as far as having the sheriff patrolling all of this or any our local police departments, I think this is more of like a messaging that would be important to get out to the users instead of trying to arrest everyone who's not doing this. But people don't know. And there's e-bikes and scooters that move at a reasonable rate. And some of these things are flying down the road. And and some of them, when they're children, I don't necessarily want them to compete with cars on the road. So we're in a weird place on this. And how do we get the streets safe for pedestrians and regular bicycles versus this kind of hybrid in the middle that could go very fast that shouldn't really compete with a car either. So we're behind. And go ahead. Did you want to?
Sure. I would just mention that e-bicycles were started and e-scooters were started in a time when we really didn't have a great bicycle network to start with. So we put these 15, 18, 20, 28 mile per hour vehicles into largely the pedestrian network, something that is designed to be for a user that goes 3 miles per hour. we haven't evolved our infrastructure system fast enough to catch up with it. It's going to be very difficult to close that gap. What I would say is look at our complete streets design guidelines and look at the traffic calming section in there. Take that and apply it to your shared use path and your multi-use path program. Because if you start thinking about, I need to slow everyone down, not just the motorist, but around these key intersections where you don't want a lot of mixing or fast passing to happen, those strategies are applicable to multi-use paths as well. It's a little bit of an evolving design and infrastructure just because this is also new. But a lot of the techniques when I speak to engineers say, if you need to traffic calm your sidewalk, you need to design it right. So that's some of the strategies that we're starting to see and we're starting to try to reinforce as we see our grant program projects coming through the pipeline. So
And in full agreement with that, but very, very large county and these things are everywhere. So I think we're going to have to get ahead of it. No, we can't get ahead of it. We're trying to catch up and it's evolving quicker than we can catch up. It's already beyond us. So whatever comes next on this, and we have our work cut out for us. And it's not just here. I mean, these things are nationwide, it's around the world, but our work is cut out for us. Future conversation on that.
absolutely.
A couple of other things, Commissioner Powell brought up the one chart. The raw numbers I think are very important for us because if you mentioned raw numbers are down while the population grows. I mean, so that actually it's even better,
It's
right?
promising. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Because typically, if we get a shrink, but
Mhm.
or a downward trend and population is flat, then it's just a downward trend, but it's a bigger separation.
Yep. One of our takeaways that we're hopeful for is that serious injuries we know are declining. 2024, we don't want to say that fatalities are down quite yet, but the data does look promising. Some of the national data does point to a decline in overall fatalities being down, but again, locally, the characteristics are very different. As you saw on the vehicle miles travel chart for Palm Beach County, we're pretty high compared to population growth. So we just want to make sure that, we're putting the right message out to the community.
Okay, and then I'm sure this is in the weeds and maybe there's a report
I
that we
love the
can dig
weeds. Let's
into.
get into
Okay.
it.
But I was curious on the motorist fatalities. Is there a way for us to kind of differentiate if those are interstate turnpike high level fatalities, thoroughfares versus community roads? Or because I know that they're all of them, but I mean, I travel 95 pretty much every day, and there's a major accident in this county every day on I-95. And how much of that are the fatalities still pretty high there? Is serious vehicle accidents? What are we looking at?
There's a reason that when we see a lot of communities trying to work on their Vision Zero action plan, it is a best practice to try to work on what you control, but also work really closely with your stakeholders. A lot of stakeholders, especially along 95, have said, we really can't control this limited access highway with 200,000 vehicles a day. We can, and I believe on the crash dashboard, you should be able to filter by your local roads. So you should be able to see and filter out. And when you do that, it will remake the crash heat map so you can see what it looks like. So we'll happily include the crash dashboard with some instructions on how to filter out, for example, limited access roadways so that you can see just the county and the state's arterials, the county and state's collectors, and the local roads.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor. Sorry, Vice Mayor Middleton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the information. And I just wanted to mention Palm Beach Gardens is growing as well. And we have a lot of communities that are trying to navigate through safety. And they have multi-use paths as well. So they have not only for walkers, bikers, joggers, e-bikes, but where do golf carts fall into this plan and for the data that's on here that you're sharing?
So
I appreciate
take everything that we talked about for e-bicycles and throw it at golf carts, and it's the same conversation. It's an evolving emphasis area. I don't think the state necessarily qualifies a golf cart as a micromobility device, but I know up and down the county, east and west, this has become a real struggle for enforcement. It's become a struggle for, some near misses that we've heard about. It's the same conversation. The crash form needs to get updated. We need to better understand if it's a low-speed vehicle, which is basically a street legal golf cart, or if it's truly a golf cart, which should not be operated on the streets with limited exceptions of where you need to cross the road. So we're still working on that. I would say it's probably not as high of, the number of crashes probably are not as high as those which, are closer tied to like the e-bicycle type crashes, but it is an emphasis area that we are also working on and tracking. It's just not, it hasn't received as much attention from the state. So we're trying to navigate how we get better information and better data.
Yeah, I think it's really important. We've spent a lot of time. I've been in many HOAs now, and with our police and fire educating. We have a lot of flyers that we're doing. We're trying to connect with the HOAs to educate parents, to educate the community and the residents, so we can all work together. And just make sure that we're all safe and people understand what the multipaths are used for versus sidewalks versus the road. Should a golf cart be on the road versus a multipath? So I think it's really important that we, put our, be mindful of this information as well. But thank you for this and sharing. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Marquez.
And my sign says Thomas, but I'm really just Tom, so not a very formal person. I'm probably going to ask you a question I know the answer to. I sat on the board of a publicly traded insurance company for a dozen years. And one of the conversations that never seems to come up in these dialogues, and I just wanted to see where we are. If you operate a car today, there's pretty strict insurance requirements, about carrying coverage. If you drive a motorcycle today, same legislation. We don't seem to be there with e-bikes right now. It seems to be an ungoverned thing. And I heard what Mayor Koretsky said, and I share your concern about the youngsters that are out on electric vehicles in neighborhoods and flying down sidewalks and all that. And I'm conscious of that. But I just wanted to know if there are any dialogues happening right now with law enforcement and the insurance companies to figure out what the requirements are. And I get very concerned, and you brought it up, like it's very difficult for law enforcement to understand with these e-bikes, which ones, where they're made and are they requirement? And there's very easy modification equipment that's available, very low cost to modify them to go from, a lower speed to a very higher speed. And that's happening all the time. And I'm just wondering, are the legislators talking to the insurance companies about future requirements? Because all these accidents that are happening, I mean, these are uninsured motor vehicles. And then what happens in the event of an injury there,
So great question.
I don't know if it is or not.
I have two thoughts. One, I am a close friend of a personal injury attorney who advises all of his, bicyclist friends to get uninsured motorist coverage, which I think is a really important thing to note. Those coverages are very helpful for people who are bicycling and that are either involved in a hit and run or involved in a crash, which, just so happens that the person doesn't have insurance, which is about 1 in 5 people in Florida that are driving. The second thing is the closest thing that you were alluding to, I think, was the regulation regarding House Bill 243. It had a provision in the initial bill which required class 3 bicycles, which are capable of 28 miles per hour being, if you're going to operate them on a public road, you have to have a driver's license. That provision was stripped. So that's what I have for you at the moment. I'm not sure about discussions directly with the insurance regulators in the state, but those are the two notes that I would share just kind of in that light. Could you turn your mic?
Apologize. If the vehicle can only go 28, there are no licensing requirements today.
Correct. You're just considered a bicyclist with an electric motor.
And if an officer happens to pull someone over, how do they know that that bike has not been illegally modified to be able to go at much higher? I think I know the answer. They probably don't know.
They probably don't. There's enough aftermarket materials, programs.
They're everywhere.
Softwares. Yeah. Every electric bicycle should have a sticker that denotes its class and capabilities. That's already in state statute. whether or not we get that, that's a commerce, federal statute that, we have to deal with in terms of what manufacturers are doing in the state. We haven't hit that point yet.
Very complex topic. I'm glad we're dealing with it and glad we're talking about it. This is the way we'll find our way forward. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Margaret.
And Commissioner McVoy.
Thank you. Couple thoughts here. One is, I think somebody mentioned the multi-use paths, and we do have a worldwide example. Holland has had multiple use paths with a stoplight for the pedestrian, separate path, a stoplight for the what are equivalent, they call them bromfietsers, but equivalent of electric bikes, and then a stoplight for the cars, and separate paths for all those. They've had it a long time, and it's kind of interesting to think about that. Holland is obviously a place that is very short on space, and they make it work anyhow. It's something to think about. The other thought, unrelated to that, or sort of unrelated to that, is as we think about micromobility, electric bikes, scooters, and so on, I think it's important to keep in mind that we have multiple objectives. The more that those are used, in theory at least, the fewer cars are on the road. And we've all are very conscious in this group that we're kind of maxed out in a lot of places on the ability to expand roadways for cars. So anything that reduces that car pressure is going in the right direction. Now, I know from experience that my e-bike will only go 20 miles an hour. People have asked me, don't you want to make it go faster? I have no interest. 20 is quite, you're moving right along at that speed. That speed is important to make it a useful transportation thing. And in that process of wanting people to use alternative transportation, you need the speed, you need the acceleration. You want to be able to get through an intersection as quickly as possible, get out of the way of things in the way. So and obviously the concern about 20 miles an hour, if you're a pedestrian and one of these things is coming at you, that's pretty fast. That becomes an issue. So yes, it is complex, but let's keep in mind that as we think about the regulations, think about things that make it more likely people will use them while still protecting all other users. Legislation to require people have bells, all for it. That's an easy one to do. It's cheap to do. Make sure it's easy for a police officer to say, hey, did the vehicle have a bell on it? It's harder to tell whether they used it, but at least if it was there, there's a potential of using it.
Thank you, everyone, for such a healthy discussion. So just a couple of things just from my perspective, and that's what I'm going to be doing in every single meeting on action items. The biggest takeaway for us as policymakers, we're the architects of policy. That's what we do, and this is what we discuss. And of course, we have all these great ideas and great input. But the most important thing is if your city has not adopted Vision Zero policy, that's where you start. You must adopt Vision Zero policy. We have 14 Vision Zero policy municipalities out of 39. When you adopt Vision Zero, the money starts coming in because there's a lot of federal funding. I was reappointed recently to National League of Cities Transportation and Infrastructure Systems Committee for the entire country, representing Florida, representing the Palm Beach County, and of course, City of Boca Raton. And I can tell you, Vision Zero, there's money out there to bring it back to your cities. After that, adopting complete street policy, we only have 7 cities in the entire county out of 39. If you adopt complete street policy, you will also have a lot of federal grants that come in. So speaking from the city of Boca Raton, since we adopted Vision Zero, which I believe was in 2022, we have received $6.5 million out of that $13.3 million. Because if you have the policy, the planning and the money will come. So I encourage you to do that. In addition, Commissioner Woodward, I was having a conversation yesterday at our safety event in Boca with FDOT, and they're looking for cities for micromobility pilots to start understanding what can be done. City of Boca Raton is one of the cities that they're looking at. This is very preliminary, but they're trying to get ahead of it. And it's music to my ears. I've spent some time in Tallahassee. I'll be back there next week. When I hear them speaking about micromobility, multimodal options, and rail. When I hear that, I'm like, finally, we are on the same page, Florida and the county and the cities. And in addition to that, lastly, I'm going to do a little plug for the federal reauthorization bipartisan bill. Please write to your Congress members. that bill has to be reapproved September 30 of 2026. I'll be in DC next month at Congressional Days with NLC advocating for that approval. We need to get that reapproved so that money comes back into the state, in the counties and the cities. Thank you. And now, do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
So with that said, I'm seeking a motion to adopt the 2026 safety targets. McBoy first, second by Guyton. If you have no, any further discussion, I have a motion by McFoy and second by Mr. Guyton. Can I take a roll call? No, no
We
roll
don't
call?
need a roll call for this item.
No roll call? Oh, sorry, this confused me. Okay, sorry. All right, no roll call. So all those, I guess, just all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Now we move on real quickly. We're trying to keep the meeting, but great discussion this morning. Information items. I'll invite Andrew Euler, Deputy Director of Programs, to present the draft fiscal year FY 2027-2028 Unified Planning Work Program, otherwise known as a UPWP.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. So this is going to be the first reading. That's why it's an informational item today. The Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal year 2027 and 2028. So we'll be operating on this come July 1st of this year. It's our 2-year business plan. This is the first review of it, taking comments and feedback, and then it'll be for an action item at your next governing board meeting. And so the Unified Planning Work Program is one of our 4 main core documents. So every single metropolitan planning organization in the country adopts these 4 documents. The Transportation Improvement Program, which is our 5-year funding, our long-range transportation plan, a public participation plan, and then a Unified Planning Work Program, which we're talking about today. And more specifically, the Unified Planning Work Program, it's that 2-year business plan. So it's our operational plan and budget over those 2 years. It's going to start, again, July 1st of this year and run all the way to June 30th of 2028. So it operates on that state fiscal year budget cycle. And with this, it programs the funding towards our planning activities as an agency. So what we're going to be doing over the next 2 years. That includes both tasks and then also who is doing those tasks. So what other staff or consultants are in those tasks? What are the specific deliverables for those tasks? The completion dates, and then how much are they going to cost with the budget and the funding source. And with this, it requires both federal and state requirements are embedded in the Unified Planning Work Program and how we carry out those activities. So there's a lot of requirements about what we're required to show. And we also work as an agency on a federal grant reimbursement program. So this is basically our 2-year budget that then gets approved by the Federal Highway Administration, FTA and FDOT, and says, yes, you can now go forward and spend funds and then seek reimbursement of those funds with federal dollars. And we do that monthly through our reimbursements to the state and federal government. There are 6 core tasks defined in this Unified Planning Work Program. So we consolidated from 9 tasks into 6 to simplify it. That includes engage and collaborate. And so that is our public outreach. That is doing surveying, going to do presentations at various agencies throughout the county. It also includes our collaboration portion, which is any stakeholder meetings we may have. And then also all of our committees and governing board meetings is embedded in task 1. Next is short range planning. That goes from corridor studies and then studies with various municipalities and other agencies, and goes all the way through the prioritization of projects into implementation and review of those projects as they're about to be built. Then we have the long range planning task that incorporates our long range transportation plan and the work we do towards that. So population projections, travel demand modeling is all embedded in that task. Something new in this Unified Planning Work Program for long-range planning is starting to get more into some more scenario planning and AI and large language models. So exploring some of those facets so we can provide more benefit and faster results to our agencies and then also in our own work. Then we have administer the agency, and that is the carrying out the federal and state requirements when it comes to being a public agency with federal and state dollars. And so that could go into our reimbursements. It's also where our personnel and human resources is, and any legal is all embedded under administer the agency. We then have regional coordination with our partners. And this focus is really on the regional transportation plan. And the main focus there is we take turns on adopting who's going to administer the regional transportation plan, and then also the Southeast Florida Transportation Council. Right now, that is in the hands of Miami-Dade. We're next to be the ones in charge of that. So we are the ones coordinating the regional transportation plan this next time around. And that's really going to start in year 2 of this Unified Plan of Work program. So more into fiscal year 28. And then lastly, we have one that is agency expenditures with local funds. We put this in a separate category, as these are not ones that are sought for reimbursement from the federal government. So these are entirely local funds with local dues. This is a breakdown for both fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28 by revenue sources. And it's about $4.5 million total per year. And the main breakdowns we wanted to show here is where our funding is coming from. Again, we work on a federal grant reimbursement basis, and the overwhelming majority of our funds are federal funds that are reimbursed through the federal government. And so our main funding source there is our Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration planning funds. These are based on formula, and so it's based on population. We receive about $2.5 million a year for those. And then our second largest category is the surface transportation funds, which are also federal highway urban area formula funds based on population, which makes up 1.75 million. So that's the largest majority of our funding base, and that's all the ones we get reimbursed. We then have a small amount of roughly $60,000 in commission for transportation disadvantage funds. So we oversee the transportation disadvantage coordinating board. And with that, it's 4 meetings a year. That's a state funding source that we seek reimbursement for. Mention the local funds, so that's 10 cents per capita for our governing board members that go towards non-federal reimbursable expenses. And that makes up around $160,000 a year. And then not shown, but it's important to mention, is that all these federal funds, for the most part, do require a local match. What's unique about Florida is we do those matches at the state level using toll revenue credits. So we spend a lot of money with our toll revenues, which is considered a local match, towards transportation infrastructure that is for the benefit of the United States. And so that's why we're allowed to use that as a match at the state level. So all of our products, transit funds as well, all that's really being matched with toll revenue credits instead of being, dollars out of a local agency or jurisdiction. So in summary, this is about in the 2 years, about $9 million, $4.5 million a year, pie chart about where those funds are going. Mostly in engage and collaborate, short range planning, doing a little bit of work in long range planning as we kick that off next in the second part of the year for this new UPWP, and then administer the agency. And then broken down in a different way, this is really the same categories, but shown by who is doing the work or other activities. So it's either personnel, so meaning our staff would do those. It's consultants, so we have general planning consultants that we work with to accomplish deliverables. And then we have other categories of travel, direct expenses, supplies, and equipment, and those would all be categorized under administer the agency. Here's a timeline to adoption. As I mentioned, this is our first reading, so we've provided a draft to the federal government and also the state, so they're reviewing that now. Our committees have also seen it. It's going to go out for one more review cycle with our committees, and then you all will have the opportunity to adopt it come March 19th. And then once we get our approval by FDOT and the federal government, we can start operating under this come July 1st. It's out for public review right now. It's been up since January 28th. That's going to run all the way until adoption on March 19th.
Thank you. Are there any public comments, staff?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any board members have any comments or questions? Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just requesting, could we get a graphic that we could share on social media for the public comment period that we have going on there? Just make it easy for all of us to share.
Great
And I have a
suggestion.
newsletter going out tomorrow, if it's at all possible to get it today. just a simple graphic? Is that possible? All right, thank you.
Also to mention, we do have a quick summary of just a 2-pager. It shows all the activities. It was also provided in the backup. It's a great resource. And it's also on our website.
Excellent suggestion. Any other comments? We're going to go ahead and move on since we're trying to, and then I'll call back up Mr. Richer for the Florida Bicycle Month update.
Hey, everybody, again. Promise I'll make this one short and sweet. Really quickly, wanted to take a moment to encourage you to celebrate Florida Bicycle Month in the month of March. So for those of you who weren't aware, the rest of the country, while they're still frozen and they're still dealing with the monstrous blizzards, we celebrate all things bicycling in Florida through the Florida Bicycle Association, who channels the energy of all stakeholders across the state, brings together a lot of momentum, and proclaims Bicycle Month in March. So we've already sent the proclamations out to you all for declaring that locally amongst your council, your organizations, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go through some of the things that we're looking at, thinking about, and maybe give you a preview of what's we still celebrate National Bicycle Month in May, but our focus and attention is really trying to ensure that we have a good quality engagement effort that kind of stands out and stand alone together. So, excuse me, I'm still trying to advance the slide and it doesn't want to work. There we go. All right, so the reason that we have provided that proclamation to you all is that our target is 30 proclamations this year. This is the highest target that we've ever, I don't want to say that we've ever set, but we feel like that we can reach and attain this number. Previous year, our highest was 27 across the organizations and governments that we're trying to reach. So we're really reaching this year. We've already received a few. I know my hometown, Palm Springs, just adopted theirs, and there was a ton of others that have already moved through the cycle. So if you have a need for this, please reach out to me, go to our website. We'll make sure that we have one for each of you. We're waiting. We just got put onto the agenda for the county. We've sent a school district proclamation out. We're trying really hard to get them to proclaim it. We included a clause this year on e-bicycle safety as well to try to draw attention to that. So just wanted to make note of that. There is a new draft proclamation that includes that clause as well to draw attention to and highlight the need for e-bike safety and education. We, of course, encourage you all to go for one of our very well attended, very well organized tour of bicycle facilities in the downtown and around the downtown. This is going to be held on Friday, March 13th. Register at palmbeachmpo.org/ride. One of the things that I really pride myself on with this ride is trying to showcase how things are being done around the downtown so that people have an idea of how they can do like a 5 or 6 mile route to your centers of activity in your districts and in your area. That's using local connections, major road connections, canals, and so on and so forth. So please do think about coming on this ride if you haven't been to one recently. This one is going to be a really good one. I'm working on it with our multimodal planner route and defining a low stress route and one that highlights lots of different needs. So please register and consider hosting your own ride or your own safety fair. Just yesterday, we were at the city of Boca Raton. Thank you, Chair Drucker, and I believe Deputy Mayor Naklas just stepped out. But we were just at the Kids Safety Fair School Day, so we included that flyer as an example representative thing that your organization can do. You can partner with us on these type of events. We're looking at when to schedule our next safety webinar. Again, that topic is probably going to be micromobility, just because of there's a lot of bills that are moving through the legislature. We're working on identifying speakers and hosts. So if you're interested in hosting a major regional event, trying to draw a crowd, get a lot of people and attention, please do reach out to us. We frequently go out to our communities table, provide events, support to your events. These are just some of the examples that we've done in the past few years and things that we know about that are coming up or have recently done. So all of these resources that I talked about, example proclamations, flyers, our walk bike safety audit program, it's available online if you want to host an event for either March, which is coming up soon, or if you want to tag us for something that you're thinking about and chewing on that you want to work on for May, please do reach out to us. We'll be happy to help as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any board members who would like to comment? So I can just share from our city, we had a bike rodeo last year. We did a micro mobility symposium last year, and just yesterday we did our safety fair. So part of our role as, again, as advocates for public safety is to try to encourage our cities to adopt some of these events, because it starts with us on the education piece. But if you ever have any questions, obviously, feel free to reach out to me directly. I could connect you to our staff. And if it's around the policy, which I help with Vision Zero and Complete Street Policy, please reach out to me. I think together we can make a real big difference on continuing to educate our residents and our communities. With that, I'll go to, thank you, Mr. Risher. For that, I'll go to partner agency updates. Are there any partner agencies wishing to provide an update today? Okay, so I just want to give a quick, are there any staff, is there any public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Do any board members have any questions for the partner agencies? So I want to leave it, I always want to leave on a good, we had a very good discussion today. On partner agencies, I want to give a big shout out to Palm Tran. The Jewish Federation of Boca Raton reached out to me at a meeting that I had with their CEO a few months ago. And they were having issues with the bus stop that was inside of where the community is. A Jewish community obviously has been under some attacks and anti-Semitism, and they had had troubles moving the bus stop outside, and the bus was going in without any security clearance. The accessibility was without them being able to approve the bus coming through this bus stop. And they were able not only to shut the bus stop really, really quickly within a few weeks, they were able to now move the bus stop to another area. And that just shows you with collaboration and partnership, this bus stop was not in the city of Boca, it was outside of the city of Boca Raton, but we were able together to move that and continue to keep our community safe. And I really, really appreciate that as a Jewish person myself, and obviously for the Jewish community that seems to be always in the news these days with anti-Semitism and safety concerns. So thank you. With that, I will bring our attention to our next meeting is, so administrative items are provided as information only to the board. There are no staff presentations of these items unless requested by a board member. Are there any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would any board member like any additional information regarding the administrative items in the agenda? Seeing none, I will jump to our next meeting will be on March 19th. And I want to thank you all for being here today, all the alternates, great healthy discussion around safety. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at